In this video, we will see table valued function, a multiline table valued function. In the previous video, you saw a inline table valued function. That means the function just returns the select statement. Okay. Now we will go to this multiline table valued function. To understand this procedure, you should have a prior knowledge on cursors. That's all. If you know cursor, you can easily follow it. Anyhow, while going, I will try to explain the cursor. Right. Let's see how the function is created. If you see, the syntax is almost the same with the table valued inline function. Here is the first line, create function, and function name is get order info. Here if you see, this function is actually accepting a parameter order number. Based on that, the function will get the order information. So before we proceed further on this, I will just expand the sales table. Why? Because this function is going to work on the sales table. Before that, I will show the keys that belongs to this sales table. So if you see, the sales table operates on the order number. Once there is a particular order number, on this order number there will be a list of books that can be ordered. Say for example, if order number is X, for order number X there will be title. One or more titles can be purchased, or order can be placed for one or more books on a particular order number, and that book belongs to particular store ID. I mean, from which store the order is shipped, or from which store the order is placed. That kind of information you can get, and on which date this book is ordered, and the quantity, which tells how many book is ordered, then pay times. Here if you see, this function is accepting an order number. Here is the order number. Then it tries to retrieve the below information. First it is retrieving a store name. Based on store ID, it gets the store name. Then title of the book and how many quantity is placed for that particular book. And store name, instead of store ID, this is returning a store name. Instead of title ID, it is returning title of the book. Then how many quantity is placed in the order. Then the similar book, how many book sold so far. That information also returned by this function. Unlike the previous one, which is a inline function which returns immediately, I mean only one statement in the body of the function. Here if you see, it returns order info table. Here I defined the table here, order info table, and this is actually, you can consider it as a temp table, and this table exists till this function exists. Once the function returns, the table is gone, or the table is returned to the caller. Okay, here if you see, these 4 column participates a table: store name, title, quantity, and total sold. Store name actually matches the data type of store ID. So we have to go to stores. Stores is here, column, store ID, which is character of 4. So I kept a varchar of 20. Here is the store name, varchar of 40. So here there may be a possible truncation. I should have kept varchar of 40. Similarly, if you go to titles, it matches the data type of title 80. Here also it is 80. Okay. Yeah, let me go and correct this. store name I will keep it as 40. Okay, so far this is explained. A function which accepts a order number, then returns a table, and the table is defined here. So this variable order info is actually a table and which is returned. Okay, here the body begins. This is just for retrieval of the data. First store ID and title ID is declared locally. Then I declared a local variable which matches the table column here. So store name varchar of 40, then title varchar of 80. Here title is varchar of 80. Quantity small int. Then total sold int. Okay. Now this is just for the internal usage, and this one is just to collect the data and insert into this table before we return this. That's how the procedure is, this function is going to work. Okay. So order ID is given, order number is given. What we have to do, we have to define a cursor, then we should iterate through it. Before we go, I'll put a new query here. So if you see, let's take one example. Here you see the order number is P2121. There are store ID belongs to same. There are 3 titles placed on that order. The first title TC3218 40 quantity is placed, and the other one is 20, other one is 20 placed. So our procedure is going to iterate through that. So for example, if I give order number P2121, we need to iterate through these 3 columns. Then what we have to return is quantity. Say for example TC3218, the corresponding title is retrieved from the title table for this ID. Similarly, corresponding store name is returned from the stores table. Then quantity is available from this table itself, and then total quantity for this particular book based on an aggregate function. An aggregate function is employed on this table to return how much quantity is sold so far for this book. So this is the goal. So see here how I am opening the cursor. First here if you see, I am declaring a cursor, sales cursor for, here I am just forming the select statement. The select statement is select store ID, title ID. Why? Because we need to return a store ID from stores table, title ID from titles table, and then quantity. For that I am forming a cursor. You might think I should have been used a single query with a table join. Just to explain the multiline table, a multiline function, I am explaining I am not using the table with the joins. Okay. So here I opened the cursor. If you see, the cursor is defined on the sales table, which a filter on order number that you passed as a parameter. So say for example, if I passed order number as P2121. There are 3 rows, right? The 3 row is returned by this cursor. So that's how I declared the cursor. Once you open it, then the 3 row is retrieved, and this is sales cursor, which is the you can think it as a pointer which points to the first row. So to retrieve the data from that first row, what I'm doing is fetch next from sales cursor. That means I'm fetching the data into these local variables: store ID, title ID, quantity. Note that the order should be important. Here the order is first store ID, then title ID, then quantity. So I collected those in the same order. Imagine that we retrieved store ID, title ID, quantity. So the cursor will come like that. We'll put that where condition also. Okay, so this is what returned by the cursor. If you see, the query is similar to this. When we declare the cursor, select store ID, title ID, quantity from sales, where order number equal to whatever you pass as a parameter. So if I pass the P21 as parameter, 3 row returned. Okay, now if I go here, when I'm doing the first fetch, of course I did the open in the previous statement, then I'm doing the fetch next from sales cursor. Once you open, the pointer placed here, the pointer is in the very first row, and I'm doing the fetch now. Fetch store ID, title ID, quantity into a corresponding variables. So now I have store ID, title ID and quantity on hand. This is just to check whether the order has at least 1 row. So if fetch status is 0, that means the fetch is successful, you can proceed. So that's how I formed a while. Next, if you see, we have this store ID, title ID, quantity into the corresponding variables. So now we are collecting the data. First st name, here I declared a local variable, right? So I'm forming a separate select statement. Select st name equal to, you can forget this for now, just read the remaining. Select store name from stores, where store ID equal to store ID that we retrieved from the cursor. So for example, store ID is retrieved from here in this cursor. That store ID I am placing here, and this is the table column. So this forms a query. Select store name from stores, where store ID equal to 7067. That's all. So it returns a single store name from the stores table. Why? Because the store ID is a primary key there, so that I am collecting into a single variable. I mean collecting into a variable st name. Similarly, if you see, the title is collected from the titles table, almost equivalent to the previous statement, but we are collecting it from the titles table, and title ID we retrieved in the previous cursor. You see, title ID we retrieved here. Then quantity is retrieved from the same table. So if you see, I am not collecting it here special with a separate select statement. These 4 going to participate in the return table, so that quantity we collected it in the cursor itself. Okay. Next, total sold. Total sold is taken from the sales table. Look at here, we are using a aggregate function. Again, read it like this: select sum of quantity from sales where title ID equal to title ID. That means the title ID, once again I am using it from the cursor, and I am forming the aggregate function on the sales table to know how much title sold so far. This quantity belongs to the quantity for a particular book placed in a order, and how much that book is totally sold as per the history we have in the database. Okay, that's all. We have all 4 variables populated. st name, we wrote a query. Title, we wrote a query. We wrote a aggregate function to retrieve this. This is taken from the cursor itself. To retrieve these 2, we used the local variable, and that got retrieved through cursor, and then we wrote a separate query to get this title name and store name. So if you see, that's how we use the multiline function, even for some complex situation where we cannot use even table joins. Right. Okay. So here then we are making use of the insert order info, store name, title, quantity sold. So here this return table we define here, right? I'm making an insert here. Why? Because we have all the data now. Insert order info, these are all the table column, and these are all the local variable. I'm just making use of the select statement on those local variable, and that will go and get inserted in here. Alright, now what I'm doing the fetch next. Let's say in the very first, when you opened the cursor is here. Once you read the next fetch, the pointer advances to the next row. Now we come here and we will check the fetch status. Yes, fetch status is 0. That means the fetch is successful. So we do the same thing for the second row found on the table. Then we come here and we go for fetch next again. It comes here, we do the same thing for the third row, and the fetch next will fail and we will come out of while loop. So by this time we inserted 3 rows in this table. Once you return, this table got returned to the caller. That's all on this. Now I will execute this to create the function. So it says a command completed successfully. That means the function is created. In the next video I will show executing this function. I am stopping it for now.